This was one of the most hectic weeks of my life, and it was another kick in the teeth as well, which sounds weird when you hit the biggest milestone we'd hit to date. But I remember it being like just a penny drop moment. Building this system completely changed the game for us. The fact that I was forced to do 5 hours back-to-back sales calls, 20 minutes each, and 12 of them closed, is not because I'm a sales wizard. Yeah, it was just a good moment. When I look back now, it was a good moment, and you realize like we're actually building a system here that can actually finally start to work without me being like the key constraint on that sales call. Alright guys, welcome back to another video with Work Life and Balance. Today I want to tell you a very quick short story of when we were scaling and we were about to hit our first ever 40k month, which is unbelievable for us at the time with PB Academy. It was a fitness coaching service, and this was one of the most hectic weeks of my life, and it was another kick in the teeth as well, which sounds weird when you hit the biggest milestone we'd hit to date in terms of revenue. But it was a kick in the teeth because I was such a key constraint in my own business scaling at that point. And I just want to tell you that story. So it was a Thursday night, and I remember this because work was crazy anyway. It was the typical season of business where the founder, you as the business owner, you're working 12, 16-hour days most of the time. You can barely get a second to breathe. A lot of the things happening in business are very new to you at the time. For example, I was handling team members and managing team members. I've never done that before. It wasn't within my experience or skill set. So a lot of this was just, it was taking so much time from me because I was trying to manage my own people as well as still being involved with delivery and coaching people. But also I was the only salesperson. I was the only person that was able to get on calls and actually close deals, bring on new clients. If I didn't do that job, we were not taking on any new clients. Okay, so just to give you a quick visual of what I did in another video, the breakdown of this. In terms of our funnel and how we actually brought on new clients, you might relate to this. If you're running a service business, a coaching business, agency, it could be a consultancy business, anything where you do one-to-one or just service in general to a client and you get them from online. You get your leads from online. Even if it comes from word of mouth, they're going to see your advertising and stuff on social media, right? This was our funnel. So we had leads come in organically. We weren't even doing it through paid ads at this point in time. It was all through organic, and they would hit our links, they would go through our funnel, and then we'd have a setter. So I'd been able to finally delegate that process. I'd brought in a setter. We tried, a typical VA outsourcing it. At that time I brought in a setter in-house, and I was able to work with them closely. So they were booking more calls than I could ever handle. We'd brought on a new coach that month as well, so we had new coaches onboarding. So it was very, very stressful at that point in time, right? And I remember this, it was a Thursday night because I was doing all the sales calls. So at this point here, I was doing all the sales calls, and I'll talk about the little trick now that made this possible. So I just want you to picture this, right? So it was a Thursday night, and I had 15 calls booked in during my call slots that evening. So a traditional sales call, this is a genuine sales call / consultation we would have with clients. And as you can imagine, most coaches or most service business owners out there, you're probably spending 45 to 60 minutes on a call. It might even be a 2-call close process that you've got running. But we had managed to really drop this down. And because I had no other time available that week to fit in all these sales calls, we said, right, we're going to drop this to 20-minute calls, and we're going to do them back to back, and we're going to squeeze them in because it was the only time I could do it. Otherwise, we would potentially waste those leads and waste those potential opportunities to join our service, right? So this is how our sales calls would run. So we'd have this 1-call process, and we'd split it into the discovery. We'd have then the pitch, and then we'd have the close. So this is how the call would run, and traditionally for me now at this point, this would take 30 minutes to go through this process. Now with yourself it might be completely different, but I just want you to imagine what we were doing here. So this here would take about 30 minutes, but before this, so if I actually walk you before this is when things were really bad and I didn't have this process nailed down. So before, we had this process here would actually take, it would take about 15 minutes. And then this process here would take about 15 minutes. And then this process here would take about 15 minutes, right? So when you look at each point here, What we were doing was we were spending a lot of time on the discovery process, but kind of cutting it short. So it was a quick discovery process, which is when you're asking the questions to the prospect. It's a genuine conversation. It's very authentic, and it's much more like a consultation call. But then the pitch itself, this is when, right, you've got everything you need to know now. You've confirmed that they are a good fit to work with you. But you decide now that, right, they've asked more questions about what you do, what's involved, how does it work for me, how do you guarantee this is going to get me results, all that sort of stuff. What packages do you offer, what's the pricing? That's where the pitch comes into play. Now, you're probably doing this live on one-to-one calls or even in person with people at the moment. What you might be doing is you might be pulling out a pitch deck, a slide deck, a professional presentation, and you're running them through the slides of showing them exactly what your service is and answering those questions live on a call, right? And then the question comes, well, how much is this going to cost? You may have packages, different pricing models, whatever it is. That's when the close comes into play. That's when you might face potential objections and stuff like that. This is not sales training. I want to be clear. This is not sales training. This is just what you're probably used to, and this is just what we changed about our business model and how this actually works as well. We got rid of this. So we completely removed these 15 minutes. So we removed the pitch entirely, right? And what we did, we built a Welcome Pack VSL. You've probably heard me talk about this before. And this is the time where we really put this to the test. And we really did rush these calls, right? It wasn't as good as it could be. I wouldn't do the 20-minute calls all the time, but this was just a strange situation where I literally had no choice that week. We had to hit our targets. We had to bring the people on board for our coaches to be able to service them, for the setters to be worth their while in terms of they were booking calls. I had to close them. So it was one of those things where we either switch off the system, which isn't good for the people working within our business, and we lose revenue, or we really push it to the max and see what we can handle. So I reduced this call time down to 20-minute slots. So I went down to 20-minute call slots, 20-minute slots. And this is how it looked, because we'd removed this point here. Now, I just had literally 20 minutes. Well, in this case, it would usually be 20 minutes. I had like 15 minutes, so the same 15 minutes discovery. And then I had 5 minutes to close, all right? Now, how is this even possible? Because when you look at this, you're like, it's got 15 minutes here for the close, 15 minutes for the discovery, and you had a 15-minute pitch. So how was these calls even made possible? How did I actually end up closing 12 of them? I didn't expect this. Like, I expected a complete disaster. I thought it would be better to have the first call with everyone anyway, not expecting me to be able to close many of them at all, if not all of them, but I knew it would be better to at least start that process, and then if I needed to, I could have spoke to them again at a different point and made sure that they got over the line. But to my surprise, 12 out of the 15 calls actually closed that night, like within that same night. And that Thursday night, we went out for a meal straight away afterwards. I finished about 9 o'clock. We went straight off for food. I was absolutely starving anyway, but I remember it being like just like a penny drop moment. Like building this system completely changed the game for us. I did immediately go back to 30-minute slots, definitely, but it was way better than the previous, where we had like 45 to 60 minutes booked out per person. So I was finally able to remove the pitch completely. And this is what I'm trying to teach you. Like, if you can learn anything from me, and if there's anything I can tell you, and it's something we do now for every single service we offer, every single business we run, is having this sales process built in. So when people come in and they book a call, they get sent immediately the pitch. So this doesn't give them the price. It doesn't make them price focused. It just gives them the value to watch in their own time, understanding exactly who you are, what you do, what to expect from the call or whatever consultation process you've got in play, what packages you've got available, so they've got an idea. You might want to give them a rough range of pricing. You don't have to, because I don't like the idea of making someone price focused before they join a call, but you can give a wide range if you want to, and explain this obviously can be customized. But ultimately, this proved the fact that I was forced to do 5 hours back-to-back sales calls, 20 minutes each, and 12 of them closed, is not because I'm a sales wizard. Like, I'm not a sales guru. I'm not trying to teach you sales training. This is not tactics or objection handling. This is just when you professionally pitch someone, because it's automated and it's a professional presentation where you've got time, you've presented it well as the founder, the face of the business. They get to watch you go through exactly what your service is about in a passionate way. You describe it, how you can do certain things, how it's so customized, talk about all the elements of your service delivery. This then, when they get to the call, You're just having a conversation. It's not salesy at all. It was just 15 minutes to just have a chat back and forth. You go through all the usual questions that you would with the prospect, find out more about them. They get to find out a little bit more about you. But everything that they want to know about you, they already know. They already turn up to this call ready to buy. They're pre-sold. They understand everything about your service. And it's just a complete game changer. And why you only need 5 minutes to close is because if they've turned up to that call after watching the Welcome Pack VSL beforehand, they're pretty much sold on it anyway. So they're not really going to hit you with loads of objections. They already are prepared for the call. They're prepared to basically move forward after that first call with you. And it does the job. So this was the moment for me. It was on the road to when we hit that first 40k month. We were scaling heavily as a business. And as a fitness business, there's probably not many fitness coaching services you can think of that we're at that revenue range where they don't have this massive influencer organic following. We didn't have that. We were very small. We just had a very good presence online locally, and we were able to scale up by doing everything right. We had a very good lead generation system. We had very good service, so we delivered results for people. We actually cared, and we produced really great results from the great service that we had. And word of mouth spread, so we had constant leads coming in, and that's what led to this. But the Welcome Pack VSL was a game changer for me. It removed the pitch entirely from calls. It stopped it being a salesy conversation. People understood exactly what we are, what we do, and they turned up ready to buy. So if there's anything I can tell you from my experience and from going through this, where it really tested how good this Welcome Pack VSL was by doing 20-minute calls, and that's all I had available, and closing 12 out of them 15 calls, that's when I realized how powerful this was as a sales system, as a sales asset. So I don't know what else I could tell you you need to try this. And if you don't, I don't know why. You're just going to be repeating yourself on sales calls. You're going to be making it harder. People are going to come into the sales calls at different points in their mind. For example, they might be extremely warm and ready to buy anyway. Or they might be completely cold, coming from paid traffic, from cold, as a cold prospect. And they might just be unaware of what you do. They don't know what the service is. They're not ready to buy. They're a very closed book. They're not going to move forward with you at all. They're definitely not going to pay. But this Welcome Pack video that they get to watch, this professional pitch from you, is going to completely change their mindset, and they're going to be warmed up coming into that call. They're going to respect you, respect what you've done. They know what you can do for them. And it just makes sense. It makes sense. You've basically sat down with them for 15 to 20 minutes before that call anyway. That's how it feels to them. And they're watching it with their guard down because they know it's a video. They know that you're not going to pressure them into anything else. So think of it as if you needed a 2-call close anyway, that's going to be acting as the first call for you. And then the second call is just a genuine conversation where they're expected to move forward after that anyway. Just wanted to give you that story. That night was still one of the craziest nights ever because I didn't really have time to take it in of what we've done, because it was just moving so fast and there was so much else that I had to worry about. And then when I had to just sit back to back with prospects 5 hours straight, and I remember being absolutely starving, so we went to TGI Friday straight away after it, and me and Beth went out for a meal, and yeah, it was just a good moment. When I look back now, it was a good moment, and you realize we're actually building a system here that can actually finally start to work without me being the key constraint on that sales call. So yeah, if you want to try out that for yourself, you're interested in building a Welcome Pack VSL, we've got the link below anyway, so you can get the full framework and build it for yourself. And yeah, this is all about scaling a service business online. So make sure you subscribe, and I hope this helps. Thank you. I'll see you soon.